in this verb, he's talking about his nasus atzmis and his nasus chitzonis, and it's all tied into the dafke mitzad chesed zutta mitzad, the mashpia invested in the mekabel, so that draws on the etzem of the mashpia. The kavana is tikkun not toyo, atzilus not toyo. The kavana is not rav chesed, but chesed zutta. So he's explaining here in Vav that it's nasus atzmis. What is it again? It's nasus atzmis. It's nasus means when the essential self is in a state of revelation, a show of self, as it were, expression of self in the deepest way. So if it is nasus chitzonius, to separate it, to clearly define the difference between his nasus atmis and his nasus chitzonius is his nasus chitzonius is agenda laden. His nasus atmis is that he himself is in a state of essential revelation, not in order to impress another, not defined by the other, but his own essential state. So the chilik there is, and is that if it's agenda laden. So he says like this, but Isnasus Chitzonius is drawn dafke to give to the Eved, because that's a bigger display of his benevolence, his chesed. Even the little fella gets from him. And it's dafke the little fella, because that expresses his philanthropy, his benevolence. But Isnasus Atzmi is, when talking about the chesed of, because chesed is, as you learned in the previous Maimer, it's the primary midah of Gilui. Every midah is accompanied by midas chesed, as we learned. In the words of the Zohar, it goes with all the other days. So other midas. So when it says nasus atzmis, then he's invested in everybody equally, and the difference is another paradoxical difference. That mitzad this nasus chitzoni is people are not tefes makim per se. They're not tefes makim. So why is he getting involved in them? Because they just express his grandeur, his greatness. So this nasus atzmi is, that's the true self-esteem. People are tefes makim. And everybody's problem is, wherever he can help. Whether he gets recognition or not, whether it's a sar or an eved, whether it's indoors or outdoors, behind the scenes or very public, he'll be there to help. Mitzad this nasus atzmi is, it's the Pella. That's what he's saying. It all parallels what he's describing before. It's nasus chitzoni is al derech what Rav Chesed Yishmoel. That's Toyo. It's nasus atzmi is comes from dashpo will be the pnimius, each one according to his level, without dismissal of anyone, and no one is being used. So it's a very intimate investment in the makabel, but it draws from where dafka dis nasus atzmis. When a person has essential self-esteem, and what's the essential self-esteem? What is that? That I am a yid, and so are you, and we're creations of God equally. Then, if I can contribute to whatever is required, then of course, whether it's the sar, the minister, the prince that needs my help, or the eved.
How would you apply?
When my self-esteem is created by the other, it's constantly threatened and it gets depleted, and it's got to be replenished all the time with another compliment. But when the self-esteem is essential, then he's a mashpia, anakbala. He's anakbala means wherever it's required, but in whatever way it's required. And that's he's saying is what tikkun is. That's what atzilus is. Atzilus is dashpa that comes, although it's a lower level. Here in the nimshal, the person's getting involved in people and the world outside of himself, but that draws on the essence. It's all the same parallel of the whole Maimer till now. Let's continue. Someone made a comment.
How would you apply his nasus atzmis and his nasus chitzonius to the mashal you gave in the beginning of the Maimer about a chassid, or how could you apply it, or it's not applicable?
Which mashal? That he just sitting and davening. That's
being himself, or like you said, like the Rab learns the Mishnah for himself. Then
it has parallels, but it's not the same thing, because the chassid just sitting and davening and being mashpia, he's got to do that. That's an avodah that's required. He's spelling it out now in the ashpa. It's not the same in ashpa of chesed, where it's not appropriate, or it's flawed. Not appropriate. It's flawed. It's an agenda. If he gives the sar, he wants to break him. He gives the evet because it shows he's a big shot. So it's related, but it's not the same meaning. It's not the same meaning. He's saying the whole time al derech. It's not mamish the same thing. There are elements.
So what would be a mashal? What would be a mashal? Fine. So what would be a mashal of the difference between these two things? Is it exactly just what you're saying? The way he's spelling it out in the Maimer, like the way he says it in the Maimer.
The mashal visnasos atzmis is not nasos chitzonius. Not a mashal, just that's the mitzias. Again, whether it's self-esteem. Nasos is nasos is a person's dignity, his essential worth, or his worth. What is it? Chitzonius or atzmius? Is it dependent on others? Is it measured by his esteem that others will hold him in all of that levels, or it's essential? The difference will be, if it's agenda laden, it's agenda laden. Then if he's going to give the sar, who is teifus mocking by him, he's going to give him in such a way that's going to humble and crush him. What does he feel comfortable giving? The eved, because the eved is completely in awe of him. But the sar is not. So if he is going to give the sar, it's going to be in a way that manipulates the sar. The minister, that he darn well knows where it's coming from, and he owes it to the benefactor, where the philanthropist. But if it is nasos atzmis, then nobody's a threat, and he's mashpia everybody in the pnimistic way. So that's the moshel of atzilus. It's hashpa pnimis. Why? Because that dafka draws on the etzem of the mashpia. That's mevalikus. The moshel we're giving is the king, is a melech. We give this moshel. Maybe there's a time when the king, there's a level when the king's on parade. When the king's on parade, he's not invested in the needs of the people. And that intent there is shock and awe, might, to show the people they should be in awe of him. And then there's the deeper level of the king's relationship with the people. He's mashpia, the proteus. And the paradox is, that's where he's more invested. And there is room for, in the marshal I just gave, this is required, that people have to be in awe, everybody, of the greatness of the king. There's room for that. But if it just stays there, that's all it is, that's his nasos chitzonius. At the end of the day, the true melech wants everybody's benefit the way it should be. But at the outset, when it says the shtalshlus works, is Rav Chesed is higher. That's the first gil. And to put it into different language, as we've been saying, in order for Dira B'tachtonim, you have to have an alien. And alien means, wow. Then comes the big chiddush, Dira B'tachtonim. No, doesn't want alien, wants the tachten, or in fact, everybody. And that's the Pnimis HaKavana, that's the Nisave, and that's the whole chiddush and irony of everything. Yeah. As he says at the end of the Oyster, that it's not as chitzonius, the hashpa is in a way that pales a shvira in the makabel. Why? Because he wants the makabel to know that you owe it to me. It's about his hashpa, not about the makabel's benefit. So at every point, the makabel's got to know where this comes from. Again, that's external self-esteem. As we keep on saying, if you're giving a marshal, you can't lock it in and then compare it to something. It's all very fluid. It's all relative. It exists in Kedush, it exists in Klippe, and it exists in all different Defanim. Let's continue. We started this already. We did. Again, so the Shviras HaKelim of Toiho, Nimshach B'chinas Chesed Yishmoel. So from the Shviras HaKelim of Toiho, so that's Chesed Yishmoel, Rav Chesed. What's Toiho? Toiho is, it's not, the emphasis is not the Mekabel, and it's not the Rashpa for the Mekabel's benefit. It's the display of the greatness of the Chesed. So the Keli, meaning to say the Mekabel is not negay and therefore he's broken. And there's all of these manifestations of that, humbling him, even embarrassing him, but broken. And that's Chesed Yishmoel. The Hashpa here is Yeshes. It's about the might of the Mashpia. He's a big Bal Chesed. The Hashpa is not Mitzad Bittel. And at a simple level, what's he going to give? He's not investing his primis. He gives moistus. He gives that which for him, if he's going to give, it's going to be that which he can afford to lose. It's extra. It's worth it because he get the cover that he's going to get. He's also hinting to that the moistus, so we learned in the previous Maimorim, it's makifim. Moistus means makifim, shirayim. But such a sport does not build up the self-esteem of the Makabel. For sure not. Mefaisa means appease. He gives in such a way the Makabel knows that it's thank you, sir. And the Makabel has to be humbled and forever grateful. So the unit of Mefaisa, should be in tzedakah, which is a ikir in tzedakah, is not there when it's Hashpach Yitzaynis, when it's Mitzad Rav Chesed, when it's Mitzad Toiho. Again, what's Toiho is, I'm great. That's what Toiho is. So that breaks the Makabel, so he doesn't appease him. On the contrary, the Makabel, the recipient, is broken, is humbled. What could he do? He needs the check. So he eats humble pie, but he has no choice, because that's the way this Gevir gives. He gets covered. If he gains from it, he gives. If he doesn't, he doesn't. They keep on tachaslaking him. Excuse me, we should delete that from the thing. This is like the Gemara says, a person can give his father the greatest delicacies, but he doesn't give his father in a way that is respectful. And literally removes him from the world. The father feels embarrassed that his son has to give to him. He's just a burden. As I told you, what the psychologist in Point Claire said, that the biggest problem that the kids facing today is that they're just a burden. Nobody wants them. That's the whole thing. That you are needed, you're wanted. That's what the mashpi has to make the Makabel feel. That you are as significant as I am are all equally significant. Everybody has their contribution that's indispensable. And what is it? The one that you need to do. Avram gives mitzad bittul. Mitzad bittul to what? The bittul to the kavon el yoina. This person needs, I have, I give, it's my privilege. I'm no more worthy than the other. To keep Avraham viewed himself as ashes and dust and earth. So I don't need what I need, I need. What I don't need, I don't need. Actually says it. As he gives everything to the other. He's not being a martyr because I have what I need, which is not much. So everything he gives to the other. And when he gives it to him, he doesn't give it in such a way that he's forever beholden to him. On the contrary, he appeases him. Imagine giving Ashpa in such a way that he builds up the self-esteem of the Makabel. Makabel walks out with his head held high with dignity. That's why alone in halach is much greater than outright, Gemilas Chesed, because of the loan of the recipient. Has his dignity. He's paying back. And to give in such a way, give you in a humble way, in a way that is that is a privilege to help you. That where does that come from? Essential self-esteem. That what's my essential self-esteem? That I'm God's creation. So are you, no less. Nobody else is a threat to my dignity, because we're all made in the image of God. Every Yid has a neshama. This is true of every human being in that sense. But he shares this very deep familial connection. If it's essential self-esteem, the other person is not a threat, not a contradiction. Such, wherever I'm needed, I can help. He gives, whether it's the minister, the Sar, or the Eved. Where's the true bligvul? Not chesed Shmuel, not in the big show of I'm a wonderful person, the king on display, but rather it's chesed zuta dafke. It's the small investor It's being invested in the minutiae of somebody else's life, and there, given shechesed zuta shoshem b'chnesses tasas atzmis, is all adding to it. Why the mile is dafke? That the Rebbe shoylel chesed Shmuel, because the kavana is chesed zuta. And that draws on the essential essence of the person, the essential self-esteem. The person has true self-esteem. Nobody else is a threat. On the contrary, he respects everybody, because his self-esteem is the same as they have. It's all one truth. We are Hashem's creations. Let's conclude. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm expressing this in the ICS that I'm using. It's not the only way to express this, but each one should think of through the mind of themselves and v'chulu. So let's conclude. V'zehu oizayin, yeah. Kotointi mikol hachasadim. So the Rebbe is writing this letter that Yaakov said it became small from all the chasadim. So there's many pirushim. The pirush HaPashat is Kotointi mikol hachasadim is that I'm not worthy to receive the chesed. Another pirush is because of all of the chesed that I've got, I become smaller. My merits have diminished. The Pirush in the Maimid is Katointi b'kol hachasadim, that the Kotointi is the source of the chesed. Shayidei abitl the Kotointi, and what kind of chesed? Not Rav chesed. But this is interesting here, it just occurs to me. Esav said Yeshli Rav, and Yaakov said Yeshli Koil. So this is Koil hachasadim. Because Esav Rav is Toihu, it's a lot. Rav means many things. And Koil means, Yaakov says, the simple level. Rashi explains, Esav says, I have a lot, but I could use more. And the Yaakov says, I have everything that I need. But a deeper level, Siddur explains that Rav means it's all divided. There's a lot of stuff. Of course, he always wants more. And Koil means it's all integrated, because it's at the bitl. The Yeshli Rav of Esav, that's Toihu. Great oidus, and the Kalim are shattered. So now this is the pshat in the pasuk. Kotointi, because of the bittul, therefore it's koil hachasadim. Then it's not just Rav chesed, but it's the atzmis dike chesed. Given shabittul the kotointi magi l'mayla b'pchinas hisnasus atzmis. This is a chesed that draws from the essential being. The chelek alika, the image of God, that's my esteem, that I'm God's creation, not a selfish agenda. And therefore coming from such a place, the hashpah is to everyone, it's koil, it's all, and it's appropriate, and it's invested. And that's what the Alter Rebbe is not concluding, is saying to the Chassidim, saying to us, the Alter Rebbe is saying in the letter there, this isn't about we won. That's Yishmael. That's agenda laden. We won, and you better know it and feel it. We're going to make you feel it. Not even make them feel it by aha. How terrible is that? Just look them in the eye and go, wink, aha. No, can't even do that. Not even to whistle. He said earlier that the whistle means that feel it's avoid in kedusha. There's the avoid of whistling, of exaltation of kedusha. He negates a whistle of kedusha, which the Rebbe employed. It has its place, but not now. After you kiss them, we're talking tachlis hakavana. It had its place as achana. Which is expression of me, I won. That's just nasos chitzonius. Even if it's kedusha. What's the we? What's the agenda? Me, pronounced. It's the agenda of Chassidus, the agenda of Yiddishkeit. Still an agenda. That is the source of Chesed Yishmael. From that can come Chesed Yishmael, which is outright negative Chesed. Chesed that really does a kindness that really does damage. Hospitality that is, it'll stab you in the back. The Alter Rebbe is saying, right after you kessel, what the tachlis avoid is, it's bittul lahashbil rucham. He's saying that our spirits have to be humbled, and he concludes that a soft answer from Bishlei turns away anger. Dafka they are bittul magim b'chinas etzem, because dafka through bittul that we draw on the etzem of Alikos, the etzem of the neshama, the etzem of Chassidus, and that is what this victory truly is, and therefore that is to embrace them, not reject them. Zeogam klolos in Yitis Kislev, and that's Yitis Kislev. Shayideze shekoichi no yisei mercy shamle. Yitis Kislev, the Alter Rebbe was crushed. Chassidim were crushed in order to extract the essence, the oil, like the olive. The Alter Rebbe was in a matzav of bittul, literally imprisoned and suffered there. But through this elicited a deeper bittul, and that caused the afatas mayonis chutza, the true spreading the wellsprings outside. As it's known that the true spreading of the wellsprings only started after Yitis Kislev, the whole crushing of the olive. The Rebbe concludes, so to the avoid of each one of us. That being a mashpia, being a benefactor, he's speaking about, giving over chassidus, but it means everything, tzedakah, anything that a person is giving to the other cannot chas v'shalom be a show of his benevolence and how wonderful he is, but rather tzecheliyas mitzad bittul dafka. On the contrary, he does it with great bittul and humility. Ba'ifin the mind rach, in the words of the pasuk, a soft response. In the end, like the water reflects the face that's shown to it, so too they will respond back. Which the Alter Rebbe says at the end, the Misnagdim will respond with love back. In the end, Chassidus will reach even there where it was so fiercely opposed, provided that that's our avodah, the avodah of bittul, which draws on the etzem and explains at length in the Maimon now. And this face-to-face that Alter Rebbe is talking about, the face of the Chassidim, the face of their opponents, that if you show this humble love, it will elicit that response at the end eventually. So this also is an allusion to the pnimius of the Eibishter. Then we are all, when we are all one and united, Hashem blesses us with the light of His face, your face, the Eibishter's pnimius. Hashem shows his inner self, undisguised. And then it'll be the fulfillment of the promise, no longer will your teacher hide, and your eyes will behold your master, that Mashiach's coming, and this will all be brought about through the avodah of spreading the well springs in a way, again, which is truly humble and comes from the depth of the heart, and therefore will touch the depth of the heart of another Jew.
So how does this match up with the beginning of the Maimer, that a chaysim boilet mulmaila creates a reverse, and so ula yeshleimer, perhaps that the chaysim mulmaila, when the Eibusher shows his grandeur, it humbles us. That's what Abraham says. But at the same time, if we initiate our humility, it's going to elicit God's grandeur. How does it apply to reverse? He said in the beginning of the Maimer that
you have to be careful with the language. We were using grandeur before the opposite. That's h'tshkach is just basically through bittul, the sunken seal is bittul. So the sunken seal elicits from above the true, not just Rav Chesed, but Koil, Kantenti Bekel Chesed, Ma'atzmi the Chesed. That's the true bligvul, the true unlimitedness. That's the point.
So, and how does it work reverse? The same way there's the chaysim boilet, a chaysim shakua mulmato. There is a chaysim shakua mulmaila. If
our avodah is, however, gender laden, then it elicits a relatively limited gili from above. Shakua, sunken above, is the Rav Chesed, which is relatively limited to the true bligvul, which is the Atzmis Dike Chesed.
Correct, but how does it work reverse? How the same way our behavior elicits the opposite behavior above, our humility elicits God's quote unquote grandeur, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. How does God's initial expression phase us? I mean, it works two ways. Just like us, our behavior elicits the opposite behavior of Momaila. How do you match this up? That
I'm not sure what you mean.
Be. If that's here he's speaking about all about our behavior. What's about the opposite? The opposite. If Hashem is giving not an embossed expression.
Okay, we'll deal with it on Monday, Mr. Shem, because we're running out of time here. Okay.